Hey everyone, so I thought I would, because I'm in the middle of December, and as a professional tarot reader, often what that means for a lot of us is that we're deep in the sorting out and the divining and the interpreting for clients and friends and beloveds, because a lot of people at the end of the Gregorian calendar year want to know what might be most probable, what might most likely unfold in the coming months. And so in the very fulcrum and midst of all of this, I conjured some spirits of mine, spirits, great ones, mighty ones that in the traditions I work within witness wonder and terror. They are the ones that come through the roads of the directions, and we might call them guardians or watchers, depending on the house or the lineage. So I have called them and I asked them to help me throw the cards to ascertain what might, through me in this moment, through these cards, be best and most useful to know for those who are listening, and myself, about the coming Gregorian calendar year 2022. So I'm going to just go ahead and start reading and interpreting what we all got. So for January 2022, this is the Waite Smith deck. This is the 10 of Pentacles. So what I'm seeing here is that in January 2022, we're coming up to a culmination of an understanding of a lineage of the virus, of better understanding of the inner workings of that and all the variants, a stronger also collective solidarity between different people, or that is ideal, and that is, I think, what several governments and international organizations will be working towards. It's also asking us and reminding us to surrender into our networks, our kin, our family, to remember who actually has our back, who do we mutually aid and support and celebrate and defend, and what does that mean for our legacy, for our spiraling cousins, and let us find different ways to share wealth and to discover what wealth really means. So that is January. In February, the Hermit, one of the greater cards, the major cards, one of the trumps. So the Hermit in February, this could, for some parts of the Northern Hemisphere, deep in winter, but for much of the world, not so. But the Hermit's asking us not to overcomplicate and overanalyze, and not to think not to project knowledge, not to preempt. So the Hermit is asking us to just all take it one breath at a time, take it one step at a time, and to connect in to that indwelling gnosis. What do I mean by that? I mean that intimate connection with divine knowing. And so gnosis can feel little, it can feel huge, and can change the direction of life or affirm life. And the Hermit is walking with that. The Hermit is holding this lantern, which I often feel is that daemonic fire, that fire of our own God soul, of our own divinity as this mystery, guiding us forward with wisdom, introspection, and reflection. The Hermit is saying there is no rush. Okay? No rush. One step at a time, breath by breath, one movement at a time. The Hermit wants us all to reflect on what is going on. And then in March, there's the Knight of Cups. So this can be about falling in love. This can be about that romantic kind of unfolding and unfurling that can happen. It's also about, what am I serving? What does my heart want to serve? What do I bring to my immediate neighborhood, to the humans I actually share community with, to the more than humans, the other than humans, my cousins, my kin? What am I passionately bringing? How can falling in love with life, with a sense of connection to purpose, with passions, how can that actually be constructive and help me to make some kind of movement? So from that February Hermit to this March Knight of Cups, the Grail, the seeking of the Grail, and also remembering that it's already there. And so what are the tools, the techniques, the strategies, the philosophies, the connections that help us spiral in and drink of what is already present? The Knight of Cups is yearning, is longing, and sometimes when they're not in harmony with themselves, they can become overwrought and swept away with their own emotion, and they no longer really know what's real or not for them, and they can be like a little they can enter a bullshit land, basically. So it's important to remember what are the things that keep us anchored to substance, to something deeper, wider than just our own thinking and story making. And then we have for April the Eight of Wands. So this is April and the Eight of Wands. So this is a card which has things speeding up. There is quickening. There is a lot happening. There is a lot resolving. This is a good news is on its way card. So there's companionship. There is fire of the mind, all melding and sharing. People sharing ideas. People coming to central campfires or places of communion and community. And there's like relief or like optimism. So this is growth into and through tumultuous things and potentially some optimistic vistas. So this is an April card. And then by May, we have the Ace of Wands. So in this case, I imagine that there is a feeling of, oh, yes. So this is about the life force quickening. This is about, interestingly, I'm located in the Southern Hemisphere, but a lot of these cards are very, like they're following like that seasonal kind of pattern of the Northern Hemisphere. I guess a lot of decisions for the globe are made up there, which is, bullshit and disproportionate, but it's also sometimes true. And so there's ignition, there's light bulb moments, perhaps there's an opening of the way. So May in 2022, there's an opening of the way, there's a light bulb moment collectively for many people. And there is a sense that in essence, there is also, I can take responsibility for my little part. I can wield my will constructively and collaboratively, or that's, the ideal best situation. So in June, we have the Hierophant, which can signify worldly institutions and structures of power and domination and top-down hierarchy. So here we are wrestling with or being with, or perhaps governments are enacting new policies or new strategies. This is also about remembering what disciplines, teachings, tools, structures actually enable us to get through. So the Hierophant, this is a more modern, like this in the older decks is called the Pope usually. The Hierophant means revealer of mystery. And so what mysteries will be revealed? What new information will come forth that helps to create or sustain or bolster structures that are actually about care, but they might and usually have control also laced in there. And so this is where there is that that whole saying about a broken clock is right twice, I guess, in the day. Sometimes I, as like someone who is not often into the policies and the actions of state and federal governments, also sometimes I agree with them. Again, that clock metaphor, the broken clock metaphor. And so this is about when and how does the state also provide care collectively, and how ought it do that if it's a representational democracy, and if it's not, what is happening? Either way, the common issue of climate crisis, of the pandemic as it changes and moves and shifts, and in general of capitalism and imperialism and colonization, or the weight and the cracks that are forming in that, there must be other ways and new ways. And so what we have in, let me count, January, February, March, April, May, June. What we have in July is, of course, the Queen of Swords, my favorite card. So there is this feminine figure, this woman, or many women, or many feminine figures who, and it maybe not, but generally, who come with that just like no bullshit, being able to drop through and survey a situation and detail what's actually happening, name the patterns, name what's going on, and execute and analyze and put forth important important solutions, basically. The Queen of Swords, sometimes heads will roll, sometimes she can be really cruel and kind of like aloof and whatever. And when she's in harmony with herself, though, when she's truly like, I am the Queen of Swords, she is executing, she is speaking truth, she is just, and she is able to help us navigate chaos, which is always there, and be able to move in a way that is dynamic and helpful and constructive. She's rationalistically anchored, she's scientifically detail oriented, and she's able to open the way. There's a lot of structure, scaffolding, detail orientation, and opening of the way in these cards. And then in August we have the Death card. So perhaps by August, I mean, there's a lot of death, and there's a lot of human death and non-human death constantly. Perhaps by August, there is a need to collectively understand how to actually grieve that. Death is inevitable. Death is a sacred part of the process of being and existing as anything. Nothing is permanent. So death is death. Death is death. So death is death. Death is also transformation from one thing to another, of course. But it's important to remember that death is real. And what that can mean for us, grief and sorrow and loss, those things are real, their impacts are real, and we need to tend to them. So perhaps there's something like, there's an opening of the way, there's new optimism, there are different strategies and solutions being employed, and potentially this creates the space for people to grieve. Lost opportunities, lost connections, lost loved ones, lost ways of life. I mean, excuse me, sneezing. Some of the ways of life we know are not sustainable and not helpful to the rest of the planet and our cousins. Okay, and so by September, we have the Queen of Cups. And so this is, again, a lightening of the heart. This can often indicate buoyancy and feeling lifted. And so, again, I return to that thread of optimism or a changing of the tide in the collective planetary situation. And so the Queen of Cups is reminding us of social connection, of intimacy, of the softness and the yielding and the power of the depth of the ocean. So again, we move from needing to collectively understand the importance of grieving to the need to understand softness and the need to understand intimacy, and how do we actually dance that, do that, create that, receive that, invoke that. And so the Queen of Cups is reminding us all collectively that we are primates, that we are animals that enjoy and need some kind of intimacy. We all do that differently. We're all wired a little differently. But the Queen of Cups is asking us to have compassion for each other and compassion for ourselves. And remember that pleasure and joy are sacred birthrights. So by October, we're moving into the Knight of Wands. So again, there's action. The Knights are often actioning something. And in this case, there is more movement. So sometimes this card signifies movement of place, location, or dwelling. And there's a lot of emotion fluctuating and changing. So something towards the end of the year, maybe there's more international travel. And this is, again, people being able to invest in their passion projects and feeling quite like that's the goal, that's where I'm going. And so there's a lifting and a focusing and a wielding of consciousness and life force to be able to execute passions and to be able to follow follow your bliss, follow your dreams. And also, yes, travel and more travel. So that's what I would say for October. And then directly after that, we have November, which is in this case, the Knight of Pentacles. And so we've moved from a Knight of Wands to a Knight of Pentacles. So potentially the Knight of Pentacles is like, okay, so we're all doing that again. We're all saying yes to this and following through with that and letting our passion guide us and traveling again. So what about at home? Like, what do we need to do in our local immediate vicinity, in our neighborhoods, in our communities, in the land that we're living with, in our bioregions? How can I help? The Knight of Pentacles always wants to help. They care. They do what is there to do. I often think of them as being the most useful when there's a mound of shit to get through, because they don't kind of, they don't preempt, they don't overanalyze, they don't rationalize. They're just very like, okay, I see this task, I'm going to do this one at a time. So this is very useful when there's panic or anxiety or exhaustion or like too much thinking ahead. The Knight of Pentacles. So that's the November card. And the December 2022 card is the Six of Pentacles. So this is, again, like some people would say this is the generosity card. Some people would say there's financial exchange or financial gifts or gifting of resources and time. And potentially that's about government again, and maybe some governments deciding to pay or redirect funds to people who are struggling because of the pandemic, because of the crisis that we are all in various kind of aspects. Again, this card, I always remind people, read the fine print. If you're making an agreement or if you're negotiating something, make sure you are completely cognizant of what is actually happening, of what the details are. And also, it's okay to receive. It's okay to receive blessing. It's okay to receive prosperity. It's okay to receive gifts. So remember that as well. Just always remember that we live most of us are living in capitalistic, imperialistic bullshit worlds. So there often is, there's often fine print. There's often something that's not actually for us. So in the receiving, it's okay to receive, but also be mindful of bullshit and bureaucracy and just the general kind of megalomania of many, many, many nation states. So that is the unfolding of 2022 Gregorian calendar year as received in this moment through these cards, through me, and through those spirits. So I hope you have gained something from this, and maybe you'll return to this throughout the year and notice how you relate to it. Thank you. I hope you're all well.